Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 131st episode of the House of Light expansion to Book of Hours, playing as the Archaeologist. Now, I can see that we're going through Rest and Refreshment, and we are talking with Mr. Kill, who should be getting up to the 13th winter, so we are ready to go to the Crystallized Chamber. That's good. I'm just making a note here in terms of the the notes that I left for myself. It says here, +1 to glazery and lightsmithing, so we are currently at... excuse me. So we're at 4 going up to 5. I currently have 4 memories right now. Excuse me. I wouldn't be surprised if I... Nope. Demote 2. Okay. So that'll almost certainly get me my 5th. But what I am curious about is how I propose to level it. Excuse me. And then I have a note here to replace the Ascendant Harmony, but clearly that's going to be happening tomorrow. Okay, so clearly the first thing that I need to do is get a lantern. Oh, well, there we go. My Faust is already there. It is also tempting to try and get an Iotic Essence. I'm so sorry. I'm really sneezy right now. I don't know what happened, but... But yeah, if I can find some way to make an Iotic Essence before the end of today, alternatively I can try and make an Orpiment Exultant, but... Let's see... I think this is my best forge right now because I'm already locked into pumps. Actually, Pyroglyphics may be the better option. Yeah, so I would need 2 forge and a liquid. I can actually reduce that down to 1 forge if I add the... Nope, I can't do that there. But I could do that at the... the alchemist table, and of course from there I could use the Honey Scar Jasmine tea. Do I want it enough to give that up? I mean, it wouldn't hurt. What else am I going to use it for? I'm just trying to think if there's another forge liquid that I can somehow coax into... So Westcott's compounds are actually kind of funny here. Well, you know what? I think we're onto something with that. So if I take the Shap, the Pyroglyphics, Westcott's compound, so the drawback here is we don't have a liquid for Iotic Essence, but presumably if I add some kind of water to that, we can use this one, then we're good to go. Alternatively, I can try and find, you know, any old water, or any old liquid. There's certainly no shortage of them. So yeah, I guess the question is, do I want to give up the amethyst ampule? Serpent's milk. That's fine, right? Actually, you know what? I have a ton of catwink I'm not going to use, so let's do that. Now, I potentially could have tried to make the Ascendant Harmony with the Shapt. The only thing is that because I've tied up my higher level forge, the bells and braziers, or sorry, you know what I mean, the music. Sacralamea maybe would have done that, but I don't have an immediate need for the sorry, I don't have an immediate need for the the Ascended Harmony. It's more just a reminder to myself to get that when the time comes. So here we go. The skill is now level 5. Its power aspects have also increased. I need to wait for the last memory, but once we have that, we'll be good to go. And I do have a little bit of a tricky question for myself as to the what I want to do with Mr. Kill. So one argument would be to try and talk with him to generate some memories. Let it clutter up their shelves. This has improved their aspects appropriately. But I don't really have any elements of the soul to, to use those memories with. I will talk with him at least once so I can get something to carry over overnight. But once we have that, I think I'm going to I might as well make a bit of money. But yeah, once I've leveled up Glacier and Lightsmithing, what I'll do is see what memories I can kind of take overnight. Okay, so we've got Towards a Fundamental Aesthetic, or The House of Glass. Julian Cosley considered this his masterwork. This book houses a numen, a truth so powerful it can perhaps believe itself. Techniques for perception and analysis which permit invidious and apocalyptic conclusions. Probably the most assiduously suppressed book in history. The entire run was destroyed, even the presses were melted and dispersed, but the manuscript edition has survived. The perfect hegemony of the hours is perhaps eternal, but Cosley proposes and describes confinement inescapable, aesthetic and optical techniques which might contain even an hour, profoundly disrupting the order of the Mansus. He presents this as his own work, but there are hints here and there that he received inspiration or even assistance from the nowhere hour named Snow. So that's more of a nice to have. De motu corporum viditorum, the author rejoices in the name of Abelard Hubris, and the title might be translated as On the Forbidden Motions of Bodies, evidently a reference to Newton's De motu corporum, published some 20 years previously. Hubris's thesis that stars, planets, and other bodies are the proxies or even essences of the hours, and that conjunctions and occlusions reveal the outcome of our intrigues in the Mansus. Hubris declares that the great comet of 1577 was the physical embodiment of the hour named Madrigad, that it disintegrated, but its fragments gravitate to bone marrow, where they can be located even now. He insists that oronoscopic techniques can be used with essential periost and sufficient sky to create a talisman centrifugic. So that's our last level 4 Glacier and Lightsmithing. And then here we have the Black Book of Brittany, a volume of ink lore gifted to St. Brendan's by Brian of Brittany, who was made Earl of Cornwall after the Norman conquest. The black flower lies heavy, but the roots of the watchman's tree run deep, and they may not be hidden forever. The black flowers, spoken of as a doom or guise, can be held at bay with the last ink of power brewed from the pale mixture in the presence of sufficient winter with the arts of containment. So I think I actually have one too many memories at this point, which is good for me because it means that I have something extra to carry overnight. So this allows me to take Forge, Rose, Moth, and Heart. So the Cheerful Ditty, the Storm, the Confounding Parable. In fact, I think I'll hang on to the Confounding Parable in this case. So we'll open up the Consider verb to get that last level of Glacier and Lightsmithing. At last, I'm something of an authority in this. Improve the skill to level 6. So, of course, this means that the extra time I spent with Mr. Kill isn't really being used for anything, but I'm not too fussed about that. We'll send him to the crystallized chamber in just a moment. And for the rest of it, I know, or I was expecting rather, that we would have some more memories, but it seems that I may have gotten ahead of myself with that. Okay, a regret. Not bad, but probably not one that I'll hang on to. That's something that I could have potentially used with the chemistry set. All right, Alchemist's Glassware. My path is blocked by shining surfaces like curdled light. Dark shapes shift beneath. But we can tap away the crystal if we're careful, but we must be careful. I don't think I need to change around the order of any of the skills. Unexpected finds in the folds of earth and sky. So we have another Viper egg here. I'm wondering if I can turn that into the living relic. Sea glass, smooth as an egg, frosted like a winter window. Moth orchid is soft as velvet to the touch, except when it changes. Don't think I'm going to be able to fit that in another one, no. So let's, I guess we create the vestibulum transitus greenhouse. You can do it. There you go. Pluck the petals of the Lenten rose. Pretty, poisonous, no true rose. And an orphan chick, a peeping little thing. Its mother is dead or flown. I should have remembered I do actually have a living relic. It's a shrieking little bundle of primordial ill temper. Perhaps I should feed that thing. I would, given how long I've had it, I would probably be pretty cross too. So. I'm just gonna take a quick sip of coffee here. With Keeper level Forge, Iotic Essence is the precursor to the great ink called Orpiment Exultant. With Keeper level Lantern, it can become Xanthotic Essence instead. So I don't have quite the need for Orpiment Exultant yet. We certainly have some spares, but I can see myself... Oh man, I have a bunch of animals that I really need to nurse back to health. But I mean, I have been working on skills and a few other things first, so... But yeah, I should get on top of that. All right, so I said I was going to keep the Confounding Parable. I'm actually not 100% sure what I want to do with the surplus. Sorry, this surplus for the library. So Medusa's Lament would be the next one. Actually, that may mean the Horns and Ivories, Knock and Scale. Well, neither of those would have helped me out here, but it is actually a pretty easy one for me to level up. I should maybe double check what my plans were with that skill. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done, and so am I, but I've earned my pay. The pumps sputter and dive, but they've done their work. Receding waters. Once more, the waters are in retreat to the lower levels of the house. So 3 Forge, 3 Knock, and Circumstance. So we can't quite use this yet. Fortunately, it will not go away overnight. The only reason I can't use it is because we can only unlock one room at a time. But the nice thing about this is that I will have my metal available for tomorrow. So if I did it a little bit later, obviously I wouldn't have the... Let's go. And here is a big room. The Rowanarium. Once there was a brother and sister who loved each other greatly. They resolved that they were one soul split into 2 bodies, and their greatest wish was to become one. They found the hidden isle where the twins, the sister and witch, had arrived when they crossed the great ocean, and a sacred pool on which the moon shone only once a year. There they spoke with the twins in dreams, and they learnt how they might become conjoined as one flesh and immortal. Now the brother's resolution failed him, and though he loved his sister, he could not choose to spend eternity joined in one flesh. The sister could not persuade him, and she would not abandon him or force him. So they used their arts to live long lives, close but separate, and they made a double foundation of monks and nuns, as chaste as they had always been. But each nun had her brother twin, and none could enter alone. In time, the sister found her own immortality, and to this day she walks the world by moonlight. The brother died, and his bones are buried in the room beneath the well, but his children live on. So this opens up the sealed vault, so with 14 Grail or 14 Knock, but There is a book that we've referenced a few times in here, which is relevant to this room. And then there is the Rowanarium itself. Rowena, the Legion, protectress of the house, holds the mayor's key of Wormstone, which opens the door to nowhere. Now and then she has lent it unwisely, but only once has she lent it to Ys. And we have another flooded... Oh, sorry, actually, this is the same flooded level, so we'll open that up. Gleaming black water, still as bone. I'll need to find some way to lower the water level before I can descend. So that gives us something to look forward to tomorrow. Now, this room here is helpful, 15 moth, 15 rose, because it gets me my last cooking station, but I don't immediately have any moth or rose to work with, so I'll kind of have it on my to-do list, but it's not a major concern. Also, I'm going to take a quick minute here to knock off a few of the items on my to-do list. Now I've lost the spare time. Sorry. Won't be a moment. So probably replacing the Ascendant Harmony should be my first priority. In fact, I can probably do that now. So this isn't committed yet. If I take the Pale Desk, one short, huh? Well, there's a fix for that. So if I go to, I believe it's this workbench. So we can take Bells and Braziers, the Faust, the Fife, and then if we add the Astrolabe to that one, I'm sure there's a better way for me to get the Ascendant Harmony, but this will do for now. Conjure bright sky music. Bells and Braziers with scholar level sky plus an instrument creates an Ascendant Harmony. Okay, so next up on the list was the Horns and Ivories, although it would be nice if I had a clearer idea of where it would go. I think that might have been a Skolakosophy one, which if so... no, hang on, because I think Skolakosophy is actually spoken... Well, then again, yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I was going to put this in Skolakosophy. If so, I minimum want to get this up to 6. So now the question is, do I have what it takes to get Medusa's Lament? So Inescapable Confinement gives me a hand there. I don't need to worry about making an Earthquake name, although maybe that's an option I want to explore anyway. All right, so we need 14. And I don't think I've got a real crusher in terms of scale. I think Coil and Chasm might be the... Nope, Stone Stories. 13. Ah, all right then. Carved snakes writhe up the frame. A prominent inscription reads, "To the librarian Willem, in earnest of our wager. I can master this mystery enough scale to match mystery scale." So, of course, what I want to do here is prepare for the higher level of Horns and Ivories and generate as many knock and scale memories as I can. The other thing is, because, you know, I'm not gonna need a whole lot out of that book. It may not hurt to try and do another one. Now, Preliminal Meter, I don't really feel... I mean, so first of all, like, that's going to be my source of rose. I feel like this one might even be better in the surplus pile for now. I'm going to give that a maybe. But Transformations and Liberations, I can see myself pushing further. The question is, am I going to be able to generate enough forge? Let's take a look. So if we take the Burning Woman, we would go for... Yeah, I really don't have that much forge. I think Pyroglyphics may be my best. So I would need... So as a practical matter, I can get away with something like a spanner. I mean, I could also use the Orpiment Exultant, but that feels like a bit of a stretch. So if I put the square there, I would need to think about a source of 4 forge. So maybe my second best will just be to read 2 texts which give me forge. And I try my chances. I don't hate that idea. I'm not like crazy about it, but it's a nice little stretch goal in my opinion. Okay. We'll read 6 letters on necessity. And then with that in mind, I still want to try and generate as much scale and knock as I can with the horns and ivories. Now there's a reasonable question here, because I'm in spring. Do I want to try and open up any of these sort of scaly areas? I may want to consider what's going on with the scale there. I don't think there's scale in these rooms. Oh, nope, mazed cell. Okay, so I may want to take a look to see if I can generate 14 scale. I won't do it today. I think we're going to focus on the horns and ivories for today. But I shouldn't rule it out as an option. I think I may use my elements of the soul to finally feed some of these animals too. Okay, so let's start. It'll be at least 2. I may need 3. Probably just be 2 though. Scale and knock, and I don't know if I want to hire a... Well, you know what? I will bring Denzel in just so I have the option. Denzel rarely works for free, but he won't take payment for helping a friend. Fixing and mending. There's not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. Okay, now I'm not gonna worry too much about duplicates or whatever. I do want to make sure that I have what I need for the horns and ivories. So we've got 1. Let's just say as a rough number, we want 7 for the horns and ivories when all is said and done. Don't know if I want to give up the core yet, so we'll use the Faust. So none of these give me knock or scale. Oh, but the threshold will. So that's 2. Patterns. Believe we're on to the... Actually, I think we recently read the radical measure. So I guess we're on to just verse now. So that's my 3, but let's try and go a bit further. I believe we're on to oblations in iron. Fear will definitely get us a scale. Trying to remember which of these... I think we're on to treaties in the underplaces. Salt gets me a knock, and that should be the last one because we're out of desks. So yeah, we've got Solace, Gossip, Beguiling Melodies, Bittersweet Certainties. The Stolen Secret would give me a knock. But again, I think we're out of... Well, I could actually use the consider verb for that, which I think is exactly what I'm going to do. And I've got a spare whist, so we'll use that there. And this needs Fusine. So again, I'm putting myself at a little bit of risk in that Denzel may potentially overlap or overwrite what I get from the from those books. I should be drawing up water, but oh, you know, I'll wait till the one round. I wanted to try and do some gardening as well, then. Right, speak to Denzel. He might even reply. So what I'm basically doing here is I wanted to queue up a bunch of books for me to read at the start, and then obviously there's going to be that chance that I take with the Transformations and Liberations book. But then for sort of the rest of the day, once I have a bit of an idea in terms of what my elements of the soul will be, I'll do a little bit of kind of spring cleaning. And I will feed the stray dog, the savage relic, and the orphan chick. And then I'll just double check that I don't have any other animals that need help. The lower pump room. The Curia installed these pumps when the lower levels of the Sisterhood's holy place were already dry. Why? What were they looking for? What lies beneath Brankrug Isle that even the Sisterhood never found? And then here we have the Fluttering Crypt. 15 moon or 15 winter, so basically, if you're not thinking Wormwood Dream, it's, you know, it should be pretty obvious. The darkness here beats with wings. Bats? The sound is more like birds, but there is a timpani quality that suggests more bones than feathers. One more step, and I sense the possibility of talons. So, not opposed to opening that room, but it's maybe not the most important thing for me to follow up on right now. So we're going to set that aside. I do also want to reread the book with the Newman. That's because I did use the inescapable confinement for... well, I'm going to get that duplicated. I'm going to use that I use that to read the book. I wish I had a better use for this, but that's fine. I mean, I guess I could use it to... you know what? What else am I going to do with it, right? I think pyroglyphics might be enough. No. Oh, right, it was Anburian Lapidary that I... No, I think I've got a... No, I don't. It's the Serpentinite slab. Okay, well that's fine, because we just used the Alchemist glassware then. So, same story. I'm not necessarily doing this because I want to. I'm doing this more just because it's available, and it feels bad to waste the foresight. I'm going to take a quick second, though, and just double-check that. Okay. That's interesting. I only get Iotic Essence out of the 15 there, but that is in future. That's one I'll keep in mind. Okay. We're doing all sorts of things today. But yeah, we'll make the OE. Lots of books, so we'll probably finish off the episode with a bunch of reading today. Singlefoot Songs. Father Stanislav John Schaller, priest and diplomat, writes of his time on the slopes of Huashan, near the Grove of Green Immortals, but never too near. Schaller's relations with the grove are cautious. It's a library of the tree, but under the hand of the hour named Applebright. In time, however, Schaller comes to be more sympathetic to the Applebright, which he suggests causes harm only when so invited. The Singlefoots of the title are one-horned, one-footed hill things with sweet but powerful voices, powerful enough to open the mountain. The Singlefoots sometimes trample pilgrims, sometimes heal them, sometimes coerce them to enter the mountain and become Singlefoots. Schaller explains that when he found this last becoming too tempting, he decided to return to his homeland. The 6 letters on necessity, warnings and confessions about the cost of the secret arts, addressed to a student and 17th century magus and reputed immortal, Julian Cosley. Cosley's tone is urgent, as if he suspected he may have little time left. Even the sun can be divided, though it require the forge of days for its division. Just Verse, a rare surviving copy of Christopher Allopoly's notoriously unsuccessful volume of experimental poetry published in 1912. Allopoly is clearly more interested in the occult than the aesthetic aspects of the work. By most measures, the rhymes are contrived, the meter inconsistent, the imagery banal. Still, even the worst verses have a compelling quality, and I find myself drumming my fingers on the desk to accompany their rhythms. In an afterword, Allopoly discusses mnemonic holometabole, by which he seems to mean a sort of crafting process where memories, when fed into a preliminal meter technique in the presence of enough knock or rose, can blossom and fissure into more potent versions of themselves. Oblations in Iron, a monster hunting initiate of the hour named the Colonel, who identifies herself as Little Sophia, records the exhibits she has rendered to the Worm Museum in the Mansis. Little Sophia has never visited the War Museum or even the Mansis in person, and evidently has no desire to do so. She mixes ink, which incorporates the remains of her prey, writes her records in that ink, and then burns them before the Colonel's altar. It is essential, however, to permit no drop of ink thereby obtained to enter any portal of the body, even a break in the barrier of the skin. Should any fragment of the worm remain viable, it may enter thereby, and the hunt's ultimate conclusion be melancholy indeed. On the Matter and Deeds of Serpents, this was probably the Prophecies of the Naga rendered into English and illustrated by William Midnight in Paris in the 1880s, but it shows a number of divergences from that text. It's certainly quite recent by the standards of VAC texts. The serpent folk called the Great Hooded Princes came to know the order called the House of Leith and warred across the miles with them. They made an alliance with the Mother of Ants whose children they had been. The text describes how the Great Hooded Princes escaped, or will escape, from the Fifth History, where they had died or were doomed to die. They entered in a secret conquest of the land of the Great River called India in some histories, and have ensured that all other conquests of that land are false conquests. The Treatise on Underplaces. Herein, the 17th century mystic and antiquarian Claude Hersault describes the bounds or underplaces on the borders of dream. He warns that they shift over time. The walls of the Mansis, Hersault begins, are the size of starlight. Many of his directions are equally unhelpful, but common relationships do emerge. A picturesque account of a journey through nightmare, interspersed with what might be partial rites. On the 18th ascent is the bud, on the 36th ascent, the blossom. A Pale Lady and a Prince of Wines, an anonymous biography of Eva de Wolf, last of the de Wolfs, focused rather salaciously on her personal troubles and intrigues. Eva de Wolf is engaged to one Abraham Wheellock, but he leaves her at the altar. Furious and humiliated, she returns to Brankrug and is not seen in London again. 3 days after her departure, Abraham Wheellock's body is washed up near Gravesend. His face is so badly pecked by birds that he is only identified by his belongings. These include a waxed pouch containing a letter addressed to Wheellock, whose contents seem to show he is a spy in the pay of the Austrians. Subsequent investigation suggests that the letter is a forgery, but the matter remains obscure. Lord Franklin Bancroft, sometimes called the Prince of Wines, begins a series of visits to Brankrug House. His relationship with Eva becomes a source of scandal. Eva is by now 49, but rumors persist for years of a de Wolf Bancroft heir. Eva's biographer claims that before her drowning death, her child by Bancroft was adopted by her friends the Southies, that the child became the sister of the later poet laureate Robert Southey. No real evidence is provided in support of this claim. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. Alright, so we're going to make a bit of money today, so we'll restore the shaft. It is spring, and the landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie, with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. And finally, Deaths and Their Evasions. Father Stanislav John Schaller writes of the means and limitation of the passage between the orders of the Mansis. No long names ours. Unusually, Father John has written this book in Fucine, for, he says, a special secrecy. He speaks very cautiously of the exceptions that can sometimes be made to the edicts of Chancel and Calyptra, and hints at the means by which he successfully returned a lantern long to flesh. Schaller mentions most cautiously of all that he has been permitted to see a book that speaks more deeply on the matter, but that it was surrendered into the shadow of a covenant stone of the Watchman's Tree. It can be retrieved if the 99th wink is reserved under the edict's liminal. Alright, so I think we will leave it there. There's a couple of things that I need to do, such as reading The Burning Woman at Ambrose's desk. And of course, the other thing that I'm going to want to do is make sure that I actually follow up on that and make sure that I I add any elements of the soul or memories that I need for that. But we'll do all of that in the next episode. That should be for Wednesday's episode. Otherwise, I think it's really just going to be a lot of skill building, and then maybe tomorrow in game we may consider bringing in another worker to one of the miners to try and open up some of these scale rooms. But I'll figure out what kind of what memories I'm looking at there. Anyways, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Take care.